What if the most important stories aren't born on battlefields, but in the quiet moments, by a night fire, or on a long journey? These are the untold tales of Middle-earth, the memories of a lone ranger, the quiet songs of dwarves, and the lessons of an ancient forest. Write in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Let's feel as though we're all sitting around the same campfire. And now, get comfortable. Imagine the embers glowing softly, and listen closely. The story is beginning. Do you know that the deepest stories, the ones that truly touch the soul, are born not from epic battles that could shake the very foundations of the earth, nor from dazzling feats for which immortal legends are spun? No, they come from those subtle, almost imperceptible, yet infinitely significant quiet moments when the entire world around us seems to pause, as if by command, allowing the echoes of the past to fill every corner of emptiness, transforming it into a repository of memory. Night is precisely that sacred time when such profound stories take shape, when the faint whisper of the wind can carry on its invisible wings the most distant, carefully guarded memories, preserved from oblivion like precious gems, and the countless cold stars twinkling above become silent, eternal witnesses to unspoken sorrows, deep regrets, and the most fragile yet unyielding hopes. It's precisely such a truly magnetic moment, filled with ancient magic and an inexpressible, all-consuming longing that unfolds right now, somewhere high in the inaccessible, time-scarred mountains, beneath the immense, bottomless blanket of the night sky, strewn with billions of diamond dust from distant galaxies, whose faint but unyielding glow barely reaches Earth, like a spectral promise. One of the old, life-hardened, much-traveled guards of the watchpost, an aged dwarf whose figure seems carved from the strongest moss-covered mountain stone, stands at his post, an unwavering embodiment of the ancient steadfastness and unbreakable will of his great people. His long, once thick and coal-black beard, as dark as the depths of ancient mines, is now streaked with myriads of silver threads, like patterns of frost settled on age-old cliffs, and his mighty, broad shoulders, seemingly capable of bearing the weight of an entire world, are slightly stooped under the immeasurable burden of long decades spent in arduous labor, endless journeys, and valiant battles, and under the even longer, piercing, and burning memories that he carefully, like the most precious treasure, keeps in the most hidden corners of his wounded yet unbroken heart. Around him reigns only the deep, primal, almost tangible silence of wild, untamed nature, occasionally, almost imperceptibly, interrupted only by the faint, rustling sound of dry leaves driven by gusts of the night wind, the rustle of an unseen creature slipping through dense, thorny thickets, or the distant, mournful, yet majestic, like the voice of the mountain itself, hoot of a solitary owl, whose call echoes for miles in this impenetrable, ringing nocturnal silence, like a ghostly summons from the depths of ages. The air, cool to a shiver that raises goosebumps, and astonishingly clean, seems imbued with the scent of pungent pine from ancient fir trees, moist, recent rain-soaked earth, and a faint, bitter wisp of smoke from a dying campfire, which adds a peculiar, spicy, unique nuance to the night's atmosphere. The campfire itself, slowly fading nearby, casts ghostly, dancing shadows on the sheer rocky walls, making them seem alive, ancient entities, carefully, with silent reverence, listening to what unfolds in this truly sacred mystical hour when the boundary between worlds becomes thinner than usual. He is not alone in this vast and sometimes hostile world. No, not at all. His loyal companions, seasoned in countless expeditions and bloody battles, sleep peacefully, wrapped in their thick, wind-proof cloaks, like cocoons of rest, their breathing steady and calm, a harbinger of deep, well-deserved slumber that, after a long day, grants at least temporary oblivion. But for this dwarf, whose name might be Balin, or perhaps he is one of those countless, nameless, yet equally valiant sons under the mountain, whose destiny was just as long, thorny, and full of hardship, sleep does not come tonight, as if rejected by him. Or perhaps he simply does not allow it to claim him, refusing that oblivion, preferring instead to immerse himself in that peculiar, deep, and blessed melancholy that at times can be sweeter than any peace offered by the fleeting world, for in it lies truth. His gaze, deep, wise from years and thousands of experiences, as if seared by them, is fixed somewhere far off, beyond the dark, jagged silhouettes of the majestic mountain ranges, to where, he knows, lie lands forever and inextricably linked to his lineage, to the very essence of his ancient, proud, and unyielding soul. These are not just lands on an old worn map. No, this is his home, his lost heritage, his once shining glory, which now exists only in trembling yet vivid memories, like an unquenchable fire in his heart. And then, from this all-consuming, almost ringing silence, from the very depths of his old yet unyielding heart, a sound is born. It emerges slowly, like an ancient spell, awakening from a long 1,000-year sleep. At first, it is merely a low, barely audible murmur, akin to the dull, ancient rumble of heavy stones. Slowly, with dignity, rolling down a sheer mountain peak into a bottomless chasm, awakening its echo, which multiplies and dissolves into the night. Then it grows a little louder, slowly taking form, building into something distinctly resembling a melody, like a master slowly forging a precious artifact. This is not the kind of song usually performed at noisy feasts, where ale and meat flow freely, and laughter and clamor fill everything to the brim. It is not a joyful, triumphant song sung on victorious campaigns, returning with untold spoils and well-earned honors, welcomed by a cheering crowd. And it is certainly not a warrior's anthem, summoning to fierce battle or proclaiming great, unprecedented achievements, inspiring legions. No, this is a quiet song, a song that sounds not from the throat, from where sounds usually originate, but from the very chest, from every bone, every cell of his mighty, hardened body resonating with them. It vibrates, it seems, not only in the cooling night air, permeating it through and through, and causing the leaves on the trees to rustle, but also in the ancient, steadfast earth beneath his strong, worn boots, echoing deeply, long, and resonantly in the massive, ancient rocks that surround him on all sides, like colossal, silent guardians, listening to every word, every reverberation. The melody is surprisingly simple, lacking complex harmonies, intricate flourishes, or virtuosic passages, like an unadorned pattern carved in stone. Yet it is incredibly deep, poignant, and imbued with such a powerful, inexpressible force that it can stop your breath. It is viscous and flowing, like molten metal, slowly but relentlessly coursing through the veins of the earth, through the depths of the mountains, nourishing them with its ancient energy and awakening long-forgotten powers. In it, clearly, as if truly present, one can hear the distant, yet so real echoes of mighty smiths' hammers, striking in perfect, measured rhythm, like the furious heartbeat of the mountain itself, living its own life. One can hear the clang that echoed in endless, majestic underground galleries as a sharp pickaxe extracted another shimmering vein of precious gems from the earth's depths, or when skilled, calloused dwarven hands processed rare ores. Closing one's eyes, one can almost physically feel the scorching heat of the forges where amazing artifacts were melted and forged, imbued with the spirit of the craftsman, inhale the specific, incomparable scent of molten gold and silver, mixed with the smell of ancient stone, damp dust, and thick smoke. One can vividly imagine thousands of facets of gemstones, from blood-red rubies to deep emerald hues, illuminating with their internal, unearthly light the immense, majestic underground palaces, meticulously and lovingly carved into the very bulk of the rock, where every stone was laid with care, artistry, and deep reverence for the material. This song, every note, every semitone, tells not merely of a home, but of home with a capital H, of the legendary kingdom under the mountain, of glorious Erebor, of that unimaginable, almost fairy tale splendor that was irrevocably lost, swallowed by darkness, and of that unfading grandeur that once shone brighter than 1,000 suns, illuminating the entire world around it, attracting the envious gazes of all who beheld it. Every minute note, like a grain of truth, seems to carry not just a fleeting sound, but a whole, multi-layered story woven from thousands of moments of joy and sorrow, victories and defeats, hopes and disappointments. It is the story of resonant, booming laughter that once echoed through spacious, solemn halls, making them alive and full of indomitable energy, turning them into a bustling hive. It is the story of infinitely hardworking, skilled hands, capable of creating countless treasures from simple stone and metal, treasures unmatched anywhere on Earth, embodying their unique soul and craftsmanship, passed down from generation to generation. It is the story of glorious ancestors whose names, carved in stone, now live not only in ancient tomes, but also in legends and songs passed from mouth to mouth like sacred mantras, and whose unwavering valor continues to inspire generations of dwarves to new, unheard-of achievements, even in the face of hopelessness. And yet, this song, despite all its majesty and beauty, carries a deep, piercing, almost physical pain. The pain of loss that left an unhealing wound in the heart of every dwarf. The pain of losing everything dear and sacred. The pain of exile, forcing them to abandon their native, well-trodden halls, leaving to fate what had been built through centuries of painstaking labor and selflessness. The pain of the terrifying silence that followed the horrific, heart-wrenching roar of Smaug the dragon and the all-consuming fire that engulfed everything, turning a once vibrant, prosperous kingdom into smoldering, lifeless ruins covered in ash. It whispers of sinister, creeping shadows that fell upon once shining torchlit halls, of the thick, suffocating layer of dust and grime that covered once gleaming gems and polished surfaces, of the lifelessness that settled where life once teemed. Creative energy bubbled, and every moment was filled with meaning. The dwarf closes his eyes, his eyelids trembling slightly from deep internal tension, from the weight of emotions experienced, and his voice, low, guttural, and full of unspoken feelings, grows a little stronger, gaining greater confidence, as if drawing it from an inexhaustible source of courage and ancient resilience. He does not sing for anyone specific. No, he sings exclusively for himself, for his soul, as if confessing to eternity, telling it his most intimate secrets, inaccessible to mortal understanding. He sings for the mountain itself that surrounds him, for the silent stars that watch from above, like the all-seeing eyes of gods, for the cold wind that carries his melody away, spreading it throughout the surroundings like a secret, unseen message intended for those who are ready to listen with their heart. In his voice, there is no despair, no broken tears, no bitterness or desire to surrender to the mercy of a ruthless fate. There is only a deep, all-consuming, noble sorrow, that very melancholy that is mixed with an unyielding, truly granite-like resolve that forces him to stand tall, no matter what. The melody slowly rises upwards, like light but dense smoke from a dying campfire, gradually dissolving into the cold night air, becoming its inalienable, almost mystical part. It becomes not just a sound, but a part of the landscape itself, a part of this sacred night, filled with ancient secrets, a part of history that soaks into the stones and trees, into the very fabric of being. Listening to him, anyone who happened to be a chance witness to this amazing, almost magical scene, whoever they might be, would instantly and unequivocally understand that this song is not a farewell. No, it is not a requiem for lost grandeur, nor a mournful cry for what is gone, but rather an unbreakable oath, spoken in the language of sounds, in the language of the heart itself, understood without words, in the language of the soul that speaks for itself, louder than any scream. An oath of loyalty to memory, an oath of loyalty to his ancient blood, his ancestors, and his unshakable roots, delving deep into the earth, and most importantly, an oath of loyalty to hope, hope for an inevitable return, for a complete, triumphant resurgence of past glory, for the building of new, even more beautiful, even more majestic halls that will surpass all that came before, becoming a symbol of a new era. He sings that even when everything seems irrevocably lost, when the darkness seems so impenetrable that one cannot even see their hand before their face, something deep within, in the very heart, continues to shine, like the most precious, brightest gem, buried deep in the earth's depths, awaiting its hour to be found and brought back to light, to shine again in all its splendor. This is not just a spark of life. It is a spark of indomitable spirit that never extinguishes, even under the greatest pressure, even under millennia of oblivion, even under the weight of the world. It merely smolders, flickering faintly, awaiting the moment to ignite with new, unprecedented strength, capable of melting any ice and banishing any darkness. His fingers, thick, calloused, and darkened by countless years of working with stone and metal, as if these elements have become part of his flesh, instinctively, almost unconsciously touch the hilt of the heavy battle axe resting at his belt, as if an extension of his own mighty arm, an integral part of his being and his life's path. This is not an aggressive gesture, not a threat to the world around him, but rather a deep, internal affirmation of his readiness and steadfastness, his eternal loyalty, a confirmation that a dwarf is always, at any moment, ready to defend what he holds dear, be it his loyal comrades, his sacred memories of the past, carefully preserved in his soul, or his most cherished yet unrealized dreams of the future, which he nurtures with tenderness and persistence. In every one of his movements, even the most insignificant, one feels an immense, age-old strength, that very unwavering strength that is carved from the hardest stone, tempered in the furious fire of forges, and passed down from generation to generation, becoming part of the genetic code, part of the very nature of a dwarf. He is not merely remembering the past. He is restoring it. He is recreating his lost home, not only in the sounds pouring from his chest, but also in his defiant, living heart, making it real again, if only for him alone, on this quiet, deep night when the world around sleeps. When the melody reaches its climax, it does not explode in a deafening dramatic chord, nor does it transition into a grandiose, triumphant roar that might awaken everyone sleeping nearby. No, it softly, almost inaudibly fades, like the last, most stubborn ember in a campfire, slowly and inevitably dying in the cold ash, giving off its last, barely perceptible warmth to the night before vanishing forever. But its faint, ghostly echoes seem to linger in the air, vibrating long after the sound itself has completely dissipated, dissolving into the infinity of the night's expanse, becoming part of the atmosphere. The night does not become less quiet from this, but it becomes immeasurably deeper, filled with an invisible but tangible presence of ancientness and eternal sorrow, intertwined with eternal, unquenchable hope. It is like the breath of the past, still living among us, reminding everyone who is willing to listen. The dwarf opens his eyes. In their deep, dark brown irises, a dim reflection of ancient, profound sorrow still flickers, having become a part of his being, his inseparable shadow, but superimposed upon it, like a thin, yet amazingly strong veil. Something else emerges, a deep, peaceful calm, an unyielding spirit, and an almost superhuman resilience forged in the crucible of trials and suffering. He slowly lowers his head, then just as unhurriedly raises it again, his gaze fixed on the direction where the first, timid, pale glimmers of dawn are already beginning to appear, gently painting the eastern horizon in soft shades of pink and orange, heralding the arrival of a new, clean day. A new dawn, a new day, and perhaps a new chance, waiting for him and his people beyond that horizon, beyond the receding night darkness that dissipates with every passing moment, bringing new hope for rebirth, for a new life. The quiet song of the lonely mountain, memories on a night watch. This is not just a story about one old dwarf, lost in the vastness of the night mountains, whose voice is carried on the wind, borne afar. It is much more. It is a deep, multifaceted story about each of us who has ever lost something truly precious and irrevocably valuable, who has experienced the pain of loss and longing, but continued to carry it in their heart like the most cherished gift, the most guarded artifact, transforming unbearable pain into an inexhaustible source of inner strength, and carefully preserved memories into a bright, guiding star, pointing the way in impenetrable darkness, keeping us on course, leading us toward the light. Because sometimes, to move forward with confidence and determination, one must not be afraid to look back, but not to get stuck forever in the past, in its shadows and sorrows, but to draw from it precious wisdom, strength of spirit, and inexhaustible inspiration for new achievements, for building a new, better future. And then, even the quietest, most inconspicuous song, barely audible in the night silence, can become the most powerful, most life-affirming anthem of hope, capable not only of changing the world around, but also of transforming its listener, filling their heart with light and faith in themselves and in tomorrow. If this story resonated with you, and you'd like to hear more tales of courage, loss, and unwavering hope, please consider subscribing to the channel. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps us bring more stories to life. Have you ever wondered what stories ancient stones hold? What would they tell us if they had a voice, beyond the whisper of the wind caressing their rugged edges? Imagine places where centuries have flown by like a fleeting moment, where human ambition and grand empires seemingly turn to dust, leaving behind only silent yet incredibly eloquent testaments to past glory. Today, we're journeying to just such a place, to the very summit of Amon Sûl, or as it's more commonly known, Weathertop. This isn't just a hill, not just a pile of ruins, as it might seem at first glance. It's a living witness, its memory pulsing through the ages, a silent storyteller of countless tales patiently waiting for their moment to be heard, to impart their wisdom to those ready to listen and understand. And it's precisely here, to these contemplative, weather-beaten ruins, that one of Middle-earth's most iconic wanderers arrives. Aragorn, heir of Isildur, the last chieftain of the Dunedain, whose destiny is inextricably linked to the fate of an entire world. His journey is long and arduous, his burden undeniably heavy. But here, among the fragments of the past, he seeks more than just shelter for the night or refuge. He searches for something far deeper, a connection to his roots, to the glory of his people, and to their tragedies, all woven into a single tapestry. Imagine the twilight sky over this place, where the first shy stars already begin to emerge through the pale blue veil of the fading day, like tiny, barely visible sparks in the vast, darkening ocean. A long journey lies far behind him, weeks, perhaps even months of tireless wandering through wild, dangerous lands, full of threats and diverse trials. Every mile, every step taken, echoes with weariness in his tired legs, yet in his eyes, an unyielding will still burns, forged by countless challenges. Aragorn, clad in worn but sturdy travel clothes that skillfully conceal his true identity, with his faithful sword at his side, given to him by his people, and a heavy bow on his back, slowly, almost reverently, ascends the steep slope of Weathertop. He feels every breath of cold air, every uneven stone beneath his feet. Each step is accompanied by the quiet crunch of dry grass and small stones scattering under his heavy boots. And in this silence, there is no emptiness. It is filled with anticipation, a premonition of encountering something incredibly ancient, something that deeply resonates with his own fate, with his difficult destiny. He is not merely seeking shelter from the approaching night, from the penetrating cold already felt in the air. He seeks something more than just a roof over his head. He seeks affirmation, solace, and perhaps even silent guidance from those who were here before him, from the shadows of his great ancestors, whose lives left an indelible mark on this land. The wind on the summit of Amon Sûl is always special. It's not just the familiar movement of air. It's the voice of time itself, the deep breath of centuries that have swept over this place. It doesn't just blow. It seems to whisper ancient legends, caressing every jagged crack in the stones, penetrating every dark niche where vigilant guards might once have hidden, or heroes of past eras found refuge from the weather. This wind, it seemed, carried the scents of the earth, damp after a recent rain, of distant pine forests darkening on the horizon, and perhaps even faint echoes of battles long fought here on these slopes. Aragorn pauses at the edge of the ruins, his gaze sweeping over the time-worn walls, over the collapsed archways where windows once were, over the barely discernible remnants of foundations, now almost entirely hidden beneath layers of turf, moss, and numerous debris. His eyes, Accustomed to long gazes into the distance, see not merely destruction, not just a pile of stones, but also the shadows of past grandeur, traces of the once proudly standing tower, the pulsing memory of its true purpose. These stones remembered much. They remembered not only their own construction, every movement of the hands that laid them, but also the glory of Arnor, the might of the kings of the north who ruled these lands, creating a bastion of light against the growing darkness. They remembered times when a signal fire burned brightly here, its vivid flame visible for many leagues, warning of approaching enemies, or announcing important events in the life of the kingdom, uniting peoples in a single, powerful surge. The Tower of Amon Sûl, also known as the Tower of Evening, was the heart of the entire watch system, one of the pillars of the Kingdom of Arnor's defense, its reliable shield. It didn't just observe the surroundings, it linked together various corners of the vast northern lands, serving as a center of communication and strength. Now, however, only a profound, all-encompassing silence reigns here, broken only by the crunch of the wanderer's own steps and the unending, yet almost familiar, whisper of the wind. This silence is not dead. It is filled with the silent echo of millennia, the echo of vanished voices and long-forgotten stories. Aragorn carefully steps into the ruins, to where the main hall, command center, or the commander's quarters might once have been, where fateful decisions were made. He kneels, his fingers slowly, almost reverently, touching the rough, cold surface of the stone. This is not merely stone, not simply a lifeless fragment of ancient masonry. It is a part of history, a pulse of the past, felt beneath the skin, penetrating to the very heart, filling it with meaning. Cold, uneven, time-worn, yet alive, like an ancient organism. In every chip, in every crack, there is a story, a pain, a memory, the imprint of someone's life. He feels this memory, as if it permeates him through his fingertips, filling his being with deep melancholy and an overarching understanding of the fragility and grandeur of mortal existence, its inevitable transience. He closes his eyes. Images begin to flow through his mind, like ancient frescoes, brought to life in his memory, unfolding before his inner eye. The faces of his ancestors, great kings and chieftains, whose blood flows in his veins, whose legacy he bears, and whose destiny he must fulfill. He sees Elendil, the great leader of the Númenóreans, saved from the destruction of his island, he who led his people to these shores, founded mighty kingdoms here, Arnor in the north and Gondor in the south, laying the foundations for a new future. He sees Isildur, his direct ancestor, he who fought the Dark Lord Sauron himself and took the One Ring, committing both a great deed and a fatal mistake that affected the fates of many. These stones bore witness to their greatness, their hopes, their heroic deeds, and their tragic falls, their errors. These walls saw much. Solemn gatherings of the wise, heated debates about the fates of kingdoms, careful preparation for battles, the brief joy of victories, and the deep bitterness of defeats, betrayals, and loyalty. Now they stand, like ghosts of past glory, preserving all this within their stony depths, silently reminding of the past, of the grandeur that can turn to dust if not properly guarded. Aragorn thoughtfully runs his hand over a broken wall, absorbing its ancientness, feeling its texture beneath his fingers. He is not merely touching stone. He is touching eternity, the unseen current of time that flows relentlessly through the ages. He feels the weight of centuries, the weight of responsibility that lies so heavily on his shoulders, like an invisible but palpable cloak. He is the last of his line, an outcast, a hereditary wanderer, one destined either to restore past glory or to finally sink into oblivion along with his people, with all the splendor that once belonged to his ancestors. And here, among these ruins, this burden feels particularly acute, almost physically, as if the stones themselves are pressing on his shoulders, asking unspoken questions. Each stone, it seems, quietly asks him, not with reproach, but with a silent plea, with hope resonating in the stillness. What will you do? Can you justify our memory, our hopes, our legacy? Can you restore glory to those who once built us, who shed their blood and gave their lives here? The whisper of the wind intensifies, as if responding to his unspoken thoughts, to his inner dialogue, to his deep questions addressed to the past. This is not just noise. It is a chorus of voices, ghostly echoes of the past, resonating not only in his soul, but also in the very air, in the surrounding space. He hears the moans of warriors, the clash of blades in mortal combat, cries of command in a forgotten tongue, the carefree laughter of children playing at the base of the tower, the voices of women waiting for their husbands and sons from watch or distant campaigns, filled with anxiety and hope. All this seems to hang in the air, mingling with the actual whistling of the wind, with the rustling of dry leaves. Aragorn knows that these sounds are merely products of his imagination, his deep, almost mystical connection to history, to the spirits of his ancestors, to their unquiet shadows that are invisibly present here. But they feel so real, so vivid, that he almost turns around, expecting to see the ghosts of ancient Arnorians wandering among the ruins, watching him like unseen guardians. This moment of solitude, this deep, melancholic connection to the past, is for Aragorn not merely a rest from the hardships of the journey. It is a form of meditation, a spiritual cleansing, a strengthening of spirit and will, filling him with inner power. In his long wanderings through the vast lands of Middle-earth, he often sought such places, ancient barrows, abandoned cities, moss-covered ruins, sanctuaries hidden deep in forests, forgotten pathways. In each of them, he found a part of himself, a part of his history, a part of his destiny, as if collecting his true identity bit by bit, his understanding of his place in this world. These places reminded him that he was not alone, that an entire people stood behind him, great ancestors, and their invaluable heritage that must be protected, revived, fought for until his last breath. Especially at Amon Sûl, a place so significant to the entire history of Arnor, to the fate of its people. It was one of the three great watchposts, along with Fornost in the north and Eamon Bereid in the west, a strategically important node guarding borders and routes. And it was here, in this tower, that a palantir was once kept, one of the 7 seeing stones, powerful artifacts capable of connecting rulers across vast distances, giving them knowledge of the world, and sometimes even showing the future, but also containing immense danger. Thoughts of the palantir evoke bitterness and deep sorrow in Aragorn, for it was because of it, because of the thirst for power and information, because of carelessness and pride, that many palantiri fell victim to misuse, and some of them were even lost, or, worse still, fell into the hands of the enemy, becoming instruments of his evil. The history of Amon Sûl is a story not only of greatness and valor, a symbol of light, but also a story of a fall, ruined by its own greed, internal strife among people, and the cunning of darkness that penetrated to its very heart. Here, on these stones, echoes of that ancient tragedy are felt, serving as a warning for the future, not to repeat the mistakes of the past. Aragorn spends a few more minutes sitting among these ancient stones, listening to the deep silence of the night and the unending whisper of the wind. He does not light a fire so as not to attract unnecessary attention. A cold dinner and water from his flask, which he always carries, are enough for him, accustomed to the ascetic life of a wanderer. Night descends completely, and the stars overhead become incredibly bright, like millions of diamonds scattered across the black velvet of the sky, beckoning into infinity. The Milky Way, like a vast river of light, stretches in all its majesty across the dark sky, revealing the endlessness of the cosmos, its mysteries and bottomless expanses. And Aragorn, wanderer and heir, feels himself a small but integral part of this enormous ancient world, constantly in motion and change, where every moment is important and meaningful. Here, on Weathertop, far from the hustle and dangers of the roads, from the enemy's pursuit, he feels that time almost stops, dissolves into infinity, losing its accustomed measure. The past merges with the present, becoming a single stream, an unbreakable thread, and the future, however uncertain, seems more tangible, more real, more attainable. He understands that his path is not merely a personal adventure, but a direct continuation of his ancestors' path, their unfinished business laid upon him. That every battle he fights, every decision he makes, is an echo of those great and tragic events that have already transpired on this sacred yet tormented land. The ruins of Amon Sûl are not merely destroyed and abandoned, they have transformed. From a symbol of watch and strength, they have become a powerful symbol of the relentless passage of time, a reminder of the fragility of mortal ambitions and the grandeur of nature, which in time consumes all that is created by human hands, leaving only silent testimonies that hold deep wisdom. Beneath his fingers, which still rest upon the stone, the surface becomes slightly warmer, as if in response to his touch, to his deep immersion in history. Or perhaps it is simply the warmth of his own hand, reflecting off the cold stone, giving him this sensation that the place itself is responding. But for Aragorn, at this moment, there is no difference. He feels the stones whisper to him of resilience, of endurance, of eternal return, and the endless cycle of life and death, destruction and creation. They speak of how, even after the deepest fall, even after complete oblivion, there is always an opportunity for rebirth. That even in the deepest ruins, beneath layers of dust and debris, lies the seed of new life, new hope, a new future, waiting for its moment to sprout. This is a message that penetrates deep into his soul. The night on Weathertop passes slowly, filled with thoughts and memories that intertwine with reality, becoming a single whole. Aragorn does not sleep deeply. His consciousness remains alert, his hearing catching every rustle of the wild, every distant sound, yet he is immersed in deep, almost transcendent reflection on the meaning of existence and his place within it. He lies, wrapped in his thick travel cloak, under the open sky, listening to the breath of the night, the whisper of the wind, the distant cry of an owl, the rustle of small creatures scurrying in the grass. Sometimes he raises his head to look at the stars, at the pale moon slowly drifting across the sky, illuminating the ruins with a ghostly light, giving them a mystical hue. Every ray of light breaking through the sparse clouds seems to him a message from the distant past, a reminder of the great times and glorious deeds of his ancestors. He recalls stories of the great kings, of how they ruled these lands, how they built mighty cities and impregnable towers, how they protected their peoples from the encroaching darkness, paying a great price for it. Every name, every event he knows from ancient lore gains a special, almost mystical power and weight here at Amon Sûl, becoming more real. These are not merely words from old, dusty books. It is a living history etched into the very earth, in the air he breathes, in the stones he touches, in every breath of the wind. Here, in this place, he feels a connection to every one of his ancestors, to every warrior who ever stood on these walls, defending the light. He feels their pain, their hopes, their valor, their unbroken spirit that has not faded. Imagine this incredible dialogue. A man and stones. A silent conversation that takes place on the level of the spirit, on the level of deep sensations, requiring no words, transcending any language barrier, penetrating to the very essence. Aragorn does not seek direct answers in these stones. He seeks confirmation of his path, strength to continue the struggle, a deep understanding of his place in the flow of time. He accepts their silent lesson about the cyclical nature of being, that after every sunset, dawn inevitably breaks, and after destruction, there is always the possibility of new creation, a new beginning, however difficult the task may seem. And now, dawn begins to break on the horizon. The first, still tentative rays of the sun touch the eastern rocks, painting the sky in soft shades of pink, gold, and violet, awakening the world. Darkness gradually recedes, giving way to light, and the world awakens again to new life, new hope. Aragorn slowly rises, stretching his stiff limbs, feeling a slight numbness after the cold night, but also a surge of fresh strength and resolve. He runs a hand through his hair, gathers his meager belongings, his flask, leftover food, adjusts his sword, ready for a new day, full of unknown events. He leaves no trace behind him, save for the barely visible imprints of his boots on the dew-laden grass, as if the wind itself will erase them, just like everything else that ever was on this land. But something has changed within him. This night, spent among the ancient ruins, he found something more than just temporary shelter from bad weather or danger. He found affirmation of his path, a new understanding of his role in the great drama of Middle-earth, of his immense responsibility. The whisper of the stones he heard was not just an echo of the past, it was guidance for the future, a silent blessing, granting wisdom and strength to move forward, a message of resilience, of hope, of the eternal struggle of good against evil, that even after the darkest nights, dawn always comes, and that light will always fight darkness until it prevails. With each step down the slope of Amon Sûl, Aragorn feels as if the weight of centuries has eased slightly on his shoulders. He is still the heir of Isildur, still an outcast and a wanderer, forced to conceal himself. But now, he walks with renewed determination and a calm, deep awareness of his destiny, his great purpose. The melancholy has not disappeared entirely. It has become a part of his nature, but it is transformed into something deeper, into quiet confidence, into an unwavering will, into a profound sense of connection with all that has been. He carries with him an invisible treasure, the wisdom of the stones, their patience, their silent knowledge, their resilience in the face of time, their message of eternal rebirth that is always possible. He is ready to continue his journey, to meet what awaits him, carrying within him this ancient, living memory, like a torch in the darkness, illuminating the path. And so, we leave Amon Sûl, leaving Aragorn on his journey, which will ultimately lead him to great trials and to his true destiny, to the rebirth of kingdoms. But this story is just one moment in his long and adventurous life, a moment which, as we see, was filled with deep meaning and inner transformation, shaping him as a person, as a future king. So next time you see old, half-ruined walls, whether in reality or in fictional worlds, pause for a moment. Listen closely. Perhaps you too will hear their whisper, the whisper of the stones, telling their endless stories, their ancient secrets. They are waiting. They are always waiting to share their wisdom, their memory, their silent experience with those willing to listen. If you like this story, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what ancient place you'd like to visit next. How many invisible stories, subtle whispers, and profound mysteries do we glide past every day, barely glancing? We see, but rarely truly feel, sense, or hear every minute, subtle detail, immersing ourselves fully in the space around us. Most of us pass countless moments daily, perceiving them only superficially, but rarely allowing the world to penetrate deep into our consciousness, to its innermost depths. Today, we embark on an utterly extraordinary and deeply meditative journey, where we will learn precisely this: to slow down, observe with extreme attention, and truly, with all our soul, come to know the surrounding splendor hidden behind the veil of everyday hustle. And our guide on this amazing adventure will be none other than Treebeard himself, one of the oldest, wisest beings of Middle-earth, the mighty and unshakable guardian of the untouched, primeval Fangorn Forest. Fangorn Forest. Its ancient name alone evokes deep reverence. It conjures images of immeasurable antiquity, untouched nature, where time itself flows according to its own, utterly incomprehensible laws, far from human measure. This is a place where trees are not just centuries, but millennia old, where the very earth remembers every step of the first living creatures to ever walk upon it, where the air is thick with the rich scent of moss, moisture, and something inexpressibly old, almost sentient, as if the forest itself breathes slowly and deeply. Do you feel it? This amazing sensation, as if thousands of invisible but perceptive eyes belonging to ancient forest guardians are watching you, and every gentle rustle of a leaf or a faint creak of a branch whispers endless stories of bygone eras and inexpressible mysteries. Here, among giant trunks and evergreen foliage, every rustle is filled with meaning, every movement of the wind, a message from the depths of time. And it seems the very air here is denser, richer than anywhere else, saturated with the aromas of ancient trees, damp earth, and countless secrets that this pristine corner of the world holds. It is here, in this living heart of Middle-earth, that we will find the keys to true perception. And now, through the thick, rich green of the ancient thickets, through dense covers of ferns, he appears. Enormous, incredibly majestic, his powerful, deeply furrowed bark resembles an old oak, scarred by countless ages, having survived millennia. His deep eyes are like wells of bottomless, all-encompassing wisdom, glowing with a soft, mysterious green light that penetrates directly into the soul, reaching its innermost corners. This is Treebeard. His steps are slow, extremely measured, each like the majestic movement of an entire mountain shifting, yet surprisingly, almost inconceivably silent, as if the earth itself accepts his tread without complaint. He is never in a hurry, because for him, time is not a fast, bubbling stream, but a wide, incomprehensibly slow river, flowing through endless millennia, carrying the history of the world within it. His presence fills the space with calm and a sense of deep, primordial order that existed long before the appearance of man. Greetings, young hobbits. His voice rumbled like the deep, low rustle of leaves in an ancient, age-old forest. It was resonant, like an echo of bygone eras, carrying the reverberations of unimaginable antiquity. Have you come to learn? To truly see? Not just with your eyes, but to perceive with your entire being? That is very, very good. But for this, my little friends, you must slow down completely. Cast aside all the haste that is characteristic of your fleeting world. Forget all the bustle of the outside world, its meaningless race. We are not squirrels scurrying back and forth, bustling and missing the main thing, nor hurried deer. We are ents, and our time is measured not by the fleeting hours that rush you, but by entire centuries and millennia that we live, absorbing every moment. Walk beside me. Feel every unevenness of the earth beneath your small feet, as if it were alive. Breathe deeply of this ancient, pure air that carries the sense of ages. This is the very first, the most important lesson, a lesson in accepting time, a lesson in humility before its slow, majestic pace, which will allow you to see far more than you could have imagined. And so we walked, following this majestic, wise creature. Treebeard's steps were so slow, so unhurried, that at first it seemed to us as if we were standing still, while the world around us slowly moved, revealing its hidden facets. Every step he took was a complete, deep meditation. Every breath he took, a new, important realization, an opening of previously unknown horizons. We learned to feel the earth beneath our feet, not just a hard surface, but a living, breathing layer, permeated by countless roots reaching deep down, inhabited by millions of invisible but vitally important creatures toiling tirelessly. We felt how the damp, fertile soil sprang back under our feet, like a living creature, how it gave off its ancient warmth, filling us with a sense of deep connection. It was amazing, because before, we had never paid attention to this, rushing past, not noticing this hidden life, this slow but mighty pulse of the planet. Now, with every step, we felt this connection, this deep dialogue with the earth, which unfolded before us in all its fullness and primeval beauty. We literally felt how the tree roots penetrated deep into the soil, exchanging vital energy with it, how moisture rose from its very depths, nourishing all living things. Every pebble, every grain of sand underfoot began to seem like part of a vast, breathing organism, of which we too became a part. Treebeard bent down, his huge hand, covered in a thick layer of emerald moss, gently and carefully touched a stone covered with a living emerald carpet, as if afraid to disturb its ancient peace. "Look," he whispered, and his deep, resonant voice was surprisingly soft, almost tender, filled with boundless love for nature. This tiny moss, it is so small, so unnoticeable, yet it is full of bubbling life. It holds ancient secrets, invisible to the naked eye. Feel it. Run your fingertips over it, slowly, carefully. How does it feel? Is it cold, like morning dew? Perhaps damp, as after a light rain? Or soft, like the tenderest velvet created by nature? Now, breathe in its unique, deep, earthy aroma. This deep, fresh scent, saturated with moisture and greenery, is nothing less than the breath of the forest itself, its ancient, wise soul, revealing itself to you. This is the first language, my young friends, that you must diligently learn and understand before you can grasp the more complex mysteries of the world. For true understanding begins with the smallest, with the simplest things. We lean down, imitating his actions, fully immersing ourselves in this new, utterly extraordinary experience that opened up the world from a new perspective. And indeed, the world around us began to unfold in a completely new way, revealing previously hidden facets unseen before. We notice the slightest unevenness of tree bark, its roughness, the extraordinary warmth of sun-warmed sections, the pleasant coolness in the shade where sunlight did not penetrate. Different trees, it turned out, had completely different bark. For some, it was smooth and even, like polished stone. For others, deeply etched with wrinkles, like the face of an old wise sage who had lived through many epochs. We learn to recognize these subtle textures, these unique imprints, just as a blind person learns to read Braille, using only touch, allowing our fingertips to become our eyes. Each time we touched the bark, we felt as if we were reading a new story, feeling the breath of life, learning the tree's character, its age, and its secrets that it held beneath its strong outer layer. It was a true discovery, a deep immersion into the world of tactile sensations, which enriched our perception and made it much more complete and voluminous. But the main thing Treebeard wanted to show us was the subtle, almost invisible difference between true, living trees and hjorns. Hjorns are those who, long, long ago, resembled real trees, but whose ancient soul became distorted, turning dark, malicious, and treacherous, imbued with evil to their very roots. They can look absolutely like ordinary harmless trees, giving no hint of their true nature, but there is no genuine life in them, no true peace, no natural harmony that is characteristic of all living things. They are nothing less than a trap, a hidden danger, lying in wait for travelers who cannot see deeper than the surface. How do you tell them apart if they look the same? We asked, feeling an unpleasant, chilling sensation run down our spines at these words, anticipating something sinister. Treebeard, with his deep, resonant voice that seemed to emanate from the very depths of the earth, said that the main difference is not something immediately visible at a first glance, but rather something deeply felt, something internal, pervading the very essence of being, invisible to the eye, but perceptible to the heart. True, genuine trees, even the most ancient, old, and moss-covered among them, always radiate a slow but incredibly powerful and constant energy of pure life, pure creative force. In them, one invariably feels the deepest calm, continuous, unhurried growth, a certain inner, almost inaudible melody of the ancient world, its beat, its rhythm, its enduring breath. Hjorns, however, are entirely different. They can stand absolutely motionless for hours, be completely silent, like statues, but their complete immobility seems deceptive, sinister, and extremely unnatural, unhealthy. This is not peace, not tranquility, but a hidden, deeply concealed malice, an unbearable burning thirst for movement, and perhaps even something far worse, a predatory, inevitable pursuit, waiting for its hour to attack an unwary traveler. Their stillness is not an absence of movement, but an anticipation of it, filled with evil. He led us to a mighty, ancient oak that towered over us like an age-old giant, having survived many generations. "Touch it," Treebeard said. "Feel its incredibly thick and old bark. It is rough, like the hide of a long-sleeping dragon, covered with deep wrinkles of time. But there is warmth in it, a living, pulsating warmth. This is the warmth of life that tirelessly rises from the deepest roots that plunge into the heart of the earth, passes through the entire mighty trunk, and reaches for the highest branches, towards the sun that nourishes it with its energy. Now listen carefully. Do you hear? The light, almost weightless rustle of leaves, the gentle whisper of crowns, a faint, barely audible creak of branches in the slightest breeze, like a groan or an ancient song. This is its slow, majestic breath, its ancient, almost forgotten song that it has sung for centuries. Every true tree sings its own unique song of life, and you only need to learn to hear it, to tune into its frequency. We pressed our ears to the wide, mighty trunk, and indeed, through the thickness of the bark, a barely audible, yet so distinct, measured pulse of life seeped through. It was as if the huge heart of the forest beat right next to us, permeating everything around with its slow but mighty rhythm. This sound was wonderfully soothing. It filled us with a deep sense of security, an incredible, ancient connection to this vast, unified living organism of which we felt a part. We almost physically felt the life-giving sap flowing through its fibers, how the wood grew, strengthened, and gained power with each passing year, becoming ever more mighty, ever more rooted in the earth. This was not just auditory perception, but a complete immersion into the tree's energy, into its living existence, which breathed, grew, and existed for centuries, holding the wisdom of many generations. We felt this invisible but powerful pulsation that connected us to the ancient heart of Fangorn, and this sensation was truly unforgettable, changing our perception of life. Treebeard slowly but approvingly nodded his enormous head, as if confirming that we had begun to understand. And now I will show you something entirely different. His voice became a little more serious, a little deeper, as if foreshadowing something important. He led us to a group of trees that at first glance looked quite ordinary, indistinguishable from the others, blending into the general landscape. But as we cautiously approached, the air around them became strange, almost alien, causing an inexplicable unease. It was cold, despite the bright sun penetrating through the canopies, as if it could not warm this place, and quiet. Too quiet, frighteningly quiet, an unnatural, oppressive silence that swallowed all sounds. There are no birds here, Treebeard observed, his gaze insightful, penetrating to the very essence, and no insects, no buzzing, no quiet whisper of life. They are completely absent here, and there is no smell, no living forest aroma. Or rather there is, but it is the smell of emptiness, ancient dust, some kind of stagnation and death, a harbinger of the end that this ominous void carries. It was as if life had bypassed this place, leaving only an empty shell. We cautiously, step by step, moved even closer, feeling the growing tension that enveloped us like an invisible shroud. Treebeard pointed to one of these ominous trees. It looked like an old, mighty elm with a wide trunk and a spreading canopy, outwardly no different. But when we tried to touch its bark, a completely strange, inexplicable sensation arose that sent shivers down our spines. There was no warmth, none at all. There was only a cold, dead, almost lifeless surface that seemed to absorb all surrounding light and energy, leaving only emptiness and a sense of non-existence. And there was not the slightest sound. The leaves did not rustle. The branches did not creak. Even the slightest breeze did not cause movement in its canopy. A complete, terrifying, unnatural silence reigned, pressing on our ears, as if the whole world around us had frozen in anticipation of something sinister, something that could happen at any moment. It was like a silent but threatening presence, waiting for its hour to manifest. "This is a Huorn," Treebeard whispered, and his voice sounded like a warning from the depths of ages, like an echo of ancient prophecies. "Its bark is dead, absolutely lifeless, though it stands as if alive, deceiving unwary travelers. Its leaves do not breathe. They do not participate in the great cycle of life, are not nourished by the sun. Its roots do not drink the moisture of life from the earth. They merely absorb the energy of those who approach. It merely waits for its hour, when it can consume those who do not see, those who do not feel the true signs, who cannot distinguish the living from the dead, those who do not hear the true signs emanating from the world. Its silence is not peace, not peaceful solitude, but merely a frozen, deeply hidden malice, lurking until its time, ready to burst forth. Its coldness is not the coolness of a shady forest, but a complete absence of warmth, an absence of soul, an absence of living energy capable of nourishing the world. Its smell is the absence of life, the anticipation of decay, a harbinger of doom. It was an astonishing, almost shocking revelation for us. We stood, profoundly shaken, trying to grasp how incredibly thin, almost invisible, the line could be between true life and its sinister semblance, between true good and the deepest evil, between absolute safety and a deadly, treacherous threat hidden from an inattentive eye. This lesson was not just about trees, not only about the forest, its hidden dangers, and ancient mysteries. It was about how incredibly attentive we must be to the world around us, to its every minute detail, to every, even the most insignificant, rustle, so as not to fall into a trap, to always unerringly distinguish truth from falsehood, to see the true essence of things, and not their deceptive appearance. We realize that the world is full of such Huorns, hiding behind the mundane. Treebeard continued our journey, his slow steps measuring time like the metronome of eternity. Now, every step we took, every moment, was filled with new, deeper meaning, enriched by the knowledge we had gained. We learned not only to see the world around us with our eyes, but to feel with every cell of our body, every fiber of our soul, every part of our being. We deeply inhaled the rich aromas of pine, fresh green needles, the thick scent of damp, fertile earth after a recent rain, the delicate sweetness of blooming forest herbs we encountered on our path, offering their unique notes. We listened attentively to the gentle singing of birds, the barely perceptible buzzing of bees, the distant, measured tapping of a woodpecker. All these living sounds that filled the truly alive, breathing forest, creating its unique, majestic symphony of life. Sometimes we stopped for long, endless minutes, simply absorbing the atmosphere around us, allowing the forest to speak to us in its ancient, almost silent language, which we gradually began to understand. Treebeard taught us to recognize not only individual unique trees, but also entire groves, their collective mood, their collective energy, their invisible connection, as if they were a single organism. He said that the forest is a single, interconnected organism, and every tiny element is important. Every part has its own voice and its unique ancient story, whispered on the wind, passed down from generation to generation. By the end of this amazing day, as the sun majestically dipped towards the horizon, painting the sky in fiery gold and crimson tones, and long whimsical shadows stretched across the winding forest paths, we felt completely transformed, changed beyond recognition. Our eyes had become much sharper, our ears finer and more sensitive to rustles, our fingers incredibly more sensitive to touch. We learned to see not only the outer form, but also the profound content, not just the superficial external appearance, but the true inner essence of all things, hidden from the inattentive gaze. We learned this amazing art, the art of slow, deep observation, which opens up an entire world full of previously unseen wonders. This experience is not just a lesson in survival in a wild forest, where a rustle can hide danger, but a true, transformative lesson in life itself. It teaches us that true understanding, the deepest wisdom, comes through absolute patience, through the willingness to cast aside haste and allow the amazing world to unfold before us in its own ancient, incomprehensibly slow rhythm. Every day, as we rush endlessly, we miss thousands of such precious moments, chances to truly see, fully feel, completely hear the true echoes of the existence around us. A walk with Treebeard is not just a walk through Fangorn, filled with ancient mysteries and hidden dangers. It is a journey into the depths of our own capacity for perception, to become a slightly more attentive, significantly more aware, and harmonious being, capable of appreciating every moment of existence. Remember, the world around us is always full of incredible wonders and amazing, countless discoveries. If only we can learn to truly see them, not just by glancing, but by immersing ourselves in every minute detail, in every sensation. And this begins with the simplest but deepest and most important step, the step of slowing down, the step of thoughtful observation, a step that inevitably and irresistibly leads us to a true and comprehensive understanding of the world, to its innermost secrets. If you enjoyed this immersion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, dear friends, always be attentive to every moment and every rustle of the world that surrounds us, for within each lies an entire universe awaiting your attention.